So if you guys enjoy what you see tonight, look forward to the next couple months. We will continue these presentations, and they're always free to come out to. So again, thank you for coming out. Without further ado, Margot.
Hey guys! Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to see so many people here. This is great. A little bit about myself, just to give you guys a background of who I am, where I come from, why this is so important to me. I am Margot Hansberry, and I originally wanted to pursue a pathway in the pre-medical field. So when I was at the University of Colorado in Boulder on my pre-med track, they actually legalized medical cannabis and came out with some regulations that put dispensaries on the map. That was in 2009. So I figured, hey, I'm really interested in helping people feel really good. This sounds like a perfect pairing along with my pre-med career. Well, I fell in love with cannabis and all the ways that it can help people, and experiencing those ways myself, sharing those ways with other people. And so I've actually been involved in the legal cannabis industry since 2009. And along my journey, I've just learned so much that I want to share it with you guys. And I always say, as I teach, I learn, and as I learn, I teach. So, if anyone has heard anything differently or might have a contradiction to what I'm talking about up here, or maybe you've had an experience that you want to share and talk about that can help others, any questions are always welcome, any contradictions are always welcome. This is such a new industry that all we really have to go off of is anecdotal evidence. So what that means is, we're learning a lot from people's experiences, and that gives you guys a lot of power in taking your health into your own hands. So that's what we're trying to support here, making sure that you're making intelligent purchasing decisions that make sense for you. I know that we're all on a budget here, so I'm going to talk about some ways to address that, especially with edibles, because I know that it can add up quite a bit. So I'm sure a lot of you guys want to know how to make some consistently dosed edibles at home. We're going to go through that at the very end. Feel free to, shout out or raise your hand, whatever you feel like, to contribute to this class, because it's not just me teaching up here, it's going to be all of us on this journey together. So I have worked as a bud tender, managed dispensaries. One of my favorite things was launching an organic dietary specific edible line in Denver, and from there we went recreational in Colorado, and that kind of hurt because everything was about that recreational market. So we're also going to take the time to address anyone's medical needs here. So start thinking about some questions that you've had if maybe you're not finding what you're looking for on the shelves. And we can hopefully take care of that problem for you and help you overcome that at home with some different tools. I've also helped launch an organic vegan powdered fertilizer company, introduce themselves nationally. So that was really fun, working from municipality, highway, side lanes full of grass, to ball fields or universities. So many people use fertilizers and don't really realize it. So that was really interesting, because I got to learn a lot about the plant. So if any of you guys are growing at home and using that flower to create edibles, we can talk about that too. I just need to know what you want to learn. So before we get started, I talked to a few of you about some specific questions. Does anyone have some specific topics that you want us to address? Yes?
One thing I've noticed, especially for individuals that aren't familiar with edibles, they sometimes often have either paranoia or some sort of psychosis. Even on the medicinal side, if they're say for example they're dosing for depression or something like that, ways to kind of balance that out. I know sometimes they say CBD, but are there any other alternatives to combine when dosing with edibles with those types of side effects?
Cool. I love it. We'll talk about that when we get to our, how is it going to make me feel, kind of addressing the information we're going to share for people who maybe haven't even tried an edible before. Do we have any people who haven't ever tried an edible before here? Awesome. This is great. So you guys will have so much knowledge. And if you have any questions, or I'm going too fast, or there's something you don't understand, definitely slow me down. Let's take a step back and we'll learn it together.
I have a question.
Yes.
Not for me, but as you're doing your demonstration, I have a dog with epilepsy. Is there something that I can cook and make for her that would use the same, I guess, CBD in order to help address that?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, you know, someone else had brought up the topic of how to make your own ratios using CBD and THC at home. I'll kind of loop that topic in with that one. And for dogs, it's really tough because there's no scientific evidence in terms of how much is too much, what they're actually going to feel. Dogs differ on sizes and metabolism so differently depending on the breed. So
he's not tiny, but he's 30 times.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, the last issue of Elevate locally has recipes for dog food.
Yeah, that's a great resource. And Nick, you guys have those Elevate magazines in the shop?
We do.
Yeah. So if you go next door to the Apothecarium, it's a free last month's issue of Elevate magazine. Or
The
this
one
month's.
with the dog on the cover with sunglasses.
Yeah. And they have like
It's a dead
article
giveaway.
after article. Yeah, that's what it looks like back there. Article after article specific to pets.
We can't
And,
see it
there's
though,
a lot
but
of
it's all
information
right.
there. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes.
I wanted to, I don't have a lot of experience with edibles, mainly because I have this thing where like, how long is it gonna take?
Mhm.
And when's it gonna wear off? And I use a lot for sleep.
Okay.
How soon should I take it before I wanna sleep? And that, there's some of the things I'd really like to know,
Perfect.
because I don't know.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to address that in a couple different slides, but I use cannabis edibles specifically for sleep myself, so I have a lot of tips and tricks for you. Yeah.
I use gummies for anxiety, and to get over that feeling of what to expect, I just took a half of one before, and then sometimes I just take a half of a one, and it works. They're little gummies.
We want to know what to expect with all kinds of edible consumption before purchasing them, so that you're not necessarily wasting your money on a method that isn't going to work the best. So we'll go through both of those. I love gummies for sleep, but there are other options if maybe you toss and turn versus have a hard time falling asleep. So yeah, yes.
Am I the only one that has the opposite reaction to? Pot wakes me up.
Yeah.
Totally, I cannot sleep.
Well, even on edibles? Interesting. So I'll try and address some things for the funky people here where your endocannabinoid system might be very special in that it isn't the same as everyone else's. None of our endocannabinoid systems are the same, but you have a very special one in that you get the opposite effects of the majority. But hey, some of us would prefer to get a lot of energy like you from cannabis. So I haven't quite talked to many people that have your same system that have found something consistent that works. But we'll talk about some options that might help you. Yeah. Anyone else? I love it. Okay, so I think I'll be able to address most of these topics. And let's just get started. So, if that's not going to bother you guys, I'm just going to ignore it. But, oh, that might be better. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like that then. So, edibles, what are the benefits? You know, there's all of these products on the shelves at dispensaries. There's tinctures, topicals, flour, concentrates, all of these different ones, and it can be really hard to make a decision, especially when, you know, a lot of bud tenders might have a high tolerance and might be using things a little bit more recreationally. That's why we love partnering with dispensaries like the Apothecarium. They have a lot of really educated and well-informed bud tenders who are using these products themselves in a medicinal and recreational way. So rest assured, if you have any more medicinally focused questions, they can always take care of you at the Apothecarium. but I know it can be pretty overwhelming. So edibles, they're not going to ever replace my flour or my concentrates or my topicals. I kind of use all of these things for a specific purpose. And that's how I feel you can really save some pocket change if you're using these things intelligently, which would mean knowing your dosage. And sometimes people love our brownies so much that they eat the whole thing, but then you just wasted 10 really good nights of sleep on one go, and you're gonna wake up or kind of fall asleep or feel really paranoid, which isn't necessarily the best thing. So edibles can be very, very beneficial if used correctly. And I talk to a lot of people who say, oh man, edibles, those just aren't for me. Either they have taken too low of a dose and haven't felt it, or they've taken way too high of a dose and it's been too much for them. Or maybe they have a very specific endocannabinoid system and a little bit goes a really long way, and that scared them away from trying it a second time. So anyone who's new to edibles, you are going to have to work in a little bit of testing on yourself and using yourself as a guinea pig, as I like to say. So when I was first starting all of these things, I would try something and I wouldn't necessarily love it the first time I tried it. But if I kept using it in different forms and for different purposes, I would kind of finally find something that would actually work for me. So there are a lot of benefits, and what I'm basically getting at here is give everything a couple chances. Because the first time you try it, maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you've had a stressful day, maybe you ate something that wasn't agreeing with your stomach, and that edible just compounded those effects instead of associating those negative effects with the edible. So I like to try everything twice. But back to the benefits of edibles. So you can get really efficient dosing, and that is specific to here in Nevada. Nevada has very stringent testing, and one of the great things that we do here in Nevada is that we have homogeneity testing for our edibles. What this means is that every production facility making edibles is required to have a lab come in, and they will take one little 10 milligram piece and another 10 milligram piece of their choosing, completely at random, from 2 different products in the same batch, and then they have to verify that those dosages are within 15% variance. Now 15% sounds like a lot, but if you're looking at 10 milligram dosages, that's only a change of 1.5 milligrams, either above or below that 10 milligram dosage. So it's not that much to put you over the edge. And if you don't know, 10 milligrams is the state suggested first timer dose. And that is pretty consistent nationally. We do recommend 5 milligrams if you're really concerned and you just want to go light and it's your first time and you're a little bit anxious about it. Start low and go slow. That's one of our famous taglines. Edibles can be more discreet than smoking or vaporizing even, and it doesn't require any tools. So you can have I'm eating brownies most often, or a gummy, and it doesn't look like you're doing anything if you're not at home. But of course, we always recommend using these products in a private space, which would mean in the privacy of a residence, or your private, whatever your private space would be. So that's typically, a house, a home, apartment, a condo, a trailer, any of those things, in a tent. So edibles can be a healthier alternative to smoking, but you have to be careful here because you have to look at the ingredients in your edibles as well. Now, it's definitely healthier for your lungs than smoking, but you've got to take a look at, what else is in there, because sometimes they don't necessarily have the best ingredients. They might taste really good. And they have longer lasting effects. We're going to talk about why and how long those effects last based on the consumption method. But they can have longer lasting effects. So I know a lot of people who are in chronic pain or need cannabis for sleep they'll smoke to get to a certain point, but then introducing edibles into that is going to prolong that high and increase the feeling of that high as well. And we'll talk about why pretty soon. With edibles, you also get a synergistic effect of ingredients. So this is really cool for anyone that is making your own, if you are making your own edibles at home, because you can pair certain ingredients with health benefits with cannabis, and that THC almost acts as a magnifying glass for those other herbs. So there's a really cool product that I used to sell called a Zoom ball, and it was a date and spirulina and nut, kind of like a ganja goo ball little thing, and it was 100 milligrams. It was about that big, and it was just so great for like physical activity because of that spirulina being so high in protein, and it almost felt like a couple shots of espresso. It was just phenomenal. I wouldn't eat the whole thing, of course, but I did try to get there. So yeah, another example of synergistic effect of ingredients. Has anyone ever put some activated cannabis oil or tincture into your coffee? Yes. Tea? Awesome. So I'm sure you can imagine that that would have a little bit more of a different feeling than just the cannabis oil on its own, because in tea you might have chamomile in there, you might have all these different herbs that also have medicinal properties, and pairing those together can increase the medicinal benefit for you. So these are some of the ways that you can really stretch your edible working for you, a little bit more so than just taking your edible on your own. Any questions about this? Yeah.
How many milligrams does gummy have?
So that's a great question. Anyone who purchases edibles or flour or concentrates, pretty much anything, I ask you to please use these awesome little notebooks that we've given you and put your labels in there, or take a picture on your phone. It's really important to read those labels to know exactly what you're ingesting and exactly what you're working with, because every gummy is going to be a little bit different. But here in the state of Nevada, for recreational purposes, 10 milligrams is going to be the cap of any individual dosage. So there may be gummies out there that are at 5 milligrams. I haven't seen any on the marketplace currently, but you're going to want to check your label just to see exactly what the milligrammage is. And usually don't have the specific dosage of the individual units and the dosage of the entire package. But I do talk to a lot of people who say, oh, I've tried edibles before and it doesn't work for me. Well, how much did you try? What did you try? And that's all going to play into how your metabolism works, and how your endocannabinoid system works, what your tolerance is, all of those things. So it's really important to know what you're consuming. Yeah.
Has anyone come up with standardized extracts like they do for herbal products?
That's a good question. Could you give me an example of an herbal product that you're talking about?
Well, let's talk ephedra, for example. Ephedra is a Chinese herb that's been used for thousands of years, and local companies, American companies, got their hands on it, and they concentrated it far beyond the amount that you're supposed to take, and people got hurt. And that's the standardization, where they take the active ingredients and they concentrate it, and even though they knew how much was in it, it wasn't safe to begin with.
Can you spell that for me? I've never heard of it.
EPHEDRA. The American version is also called Mormon tea. It's slightly different, but same stuff.
So, the FDA doesn't currently regulate any herbal supplements, so I'm wondering what standardization you might be referring to.
Well, if you buy herbal products, especially capsules, they standardize it, which means they take the herb, and if there's too much of the active ingredient, they dilute the herb, and if there's not enough, they concentrate it and combine it with other versions of the herb to get a similar amount.
Gotcha.
And even though the FDA doesn't have set regulations on it. It is a practice that's been going on for a very long time.
So who is coming up with those standards?
Well, it's basically, you buy the product, and it says that you have a standardized extract of, say, 15% of this active ingredient, or you have a standardized extract of, blah, blah, blah. And, the way it's been done for a long time, if you want more information, the American Herbal Association
Okay.
has been up on that for at least 3 decades now.
Well, so I'm thinking about all of the herbal supplements that I take, and the dosages are different depending on the brand. And so I haven't seen specific potencies, I guess, consistent potencies between those brands.
Well,
but maybe it's because I'm not using potentially harmful herbal supplements.
well, the thing is, another example is stevia. Okay, if you use stevia leaf has a lot more stuff in it than just stevia or stevioids, if I remember the exact name of the stuff in stevia that does the job. And when you take the extract, even the good version of the extract, which isn't available in a lot of places, they wipe out all the other stuff. They wipe out the chlorophyll, and they wipe out other chemicals that are in the leaf, or say ginseng. Where if you take ginseng root as opposed to ginseng extract, there's a huge difference between the two. And, like with herbs, you got people using flour, and each flour is unique. And because of that, you don't always get consistent results. And the people that like standardization like it because you have the same parts all the time.
Yeah.
But the drawback is all the other little things that are in there.
Yeah. Well, it also depends a lot on what else is going on in your system. So even if you did standardize it, it would still, I feel differently. But what I think I know how to answer your question. So right now there's a race to the highest THC potency. I think everyone's kind of seen that on the shelves. And our, at least industry perspective, is that the cleaner we can make these products and the higher potency we can make them, the more we separate that from the plant material and really isolate those things, the more we can really dive deep into what those isolated forms can do. And because there's so much variation, even with herbal supplements, there's so much variation with how people can feel and